Hey guys, welcome to Platitude U.S. History, Part 4 of Causes of the Civil War. This time we're going to talk about sectionalism. Now, sectionalism is the idea of having different sections within the country that are battling it out because they want different things, and that is actually a reality. That is a thing. Sectionalism was absolutely something that was happening, okay? So the things you have to look at are the different aspects of each section and how very different they are, right? So let's start with geography, okay? So the geographic realities of the North is that, remember when we talked about colonialism and it's all this rocky soil and blah, 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 right? They don't have the right geography for large agricultural centers. They just don't, right? And they also have really great areas that allow for diversity, and they have all of this technological progress. And so because of all of this, slavery is not only irrelevant, it's economically inefficient. It's impractical. And, you know, that's not what we do here in the United States. At least we try not to, right? Versus the South, their geographic reality is that they do have these sweeping areas and fertile areas that allow for large agricultural areas, aka plantations. And with the technological invention of the cotton gin, it really does allow this hanging on to slavery, this justification of it, this necessity of slavery, okay? So then we have the idea of the North really had this moral superiority, which we talked about in Siege Mentality, really, right? So they were like, oh, well, we got rid of slavery, we're so much better than you, except, by the way, they benefited from slavery. Yeah. So, what if? But they can just fight all they want to. They can have that moral superiority because technically they didn't have slaves. They just didn't. They did not own people. Versus the South, which really came together in this, like, solidarity, this system of solidarity that was built to protect themselves against Northern criticism, or what they called as Northern hypocrisy. Then we have cities and industry, and we have all this industrial, like, building happening in the North, and this diversification of their economy, and this allowance of travel, and this building of infrastructure, and they are an economy built on really importing and exporting, as for both of them. They have both sides of it, right? Versus the South, which is predominantly rural and agricultural, and they are dependent upon exporting their cash crop, cotton, predominantly, right? They have very limited infrastructure because plantation style and agricultural style, society does not really, or physicality does not allow for the building of railroads and roads and canals and whatever. That just doesn't. So also, when you look at that social approach, the North is all about reform and really investigating this idea around social issues and trying to help better people and help the individual, give them a hand up. Whereas in the South, they were all about tradition and mutual support, and they believed in really coming together as a community and adhering to the hierarchy that was established long, long ago. Not that long ago, but you know what I mean. Also, in the North, they had tons of immigration at this point. They had a lot of diversity. And when I say that, I don't mean that they were all like kumbaya, everyone's happy and getting along and holding hands. No. They didn't necessarily like each other, but they were exposed and they were forced to recognize worldviews or ideologies outside of their own. Whereas in the South, there was a lot of homogeny. Yes, there were African American slaves. However, basically the makeup of the South was white, poor white, remember that PWT, that poor white trash, right? And slave, African Americans. That's it. That's it. And by white, I mean like, Anglo-Saxon white, right? Whereas in the North, it was very, very different. So that right there creates a very different approach to social building, to social hierarchy, to class systems, to basically everything, right? Also in the North, remember, because of all that immigration, I did talk about in class how the North now has a denser population, and they're centered in these urban areas, and they're all living on top of each other, which leads to all the social issues, which leads to the reform that they see as necessary. Whereas in the South, it's lower in population. They have a lot more room, and they spread out, and we've talked about this. And then, of course, there's the tariff issue. Now, tariffs have been coming up since basically the get-go, right? So tariffs are great for the North. It's great for protecting infant industries. It's great for building those industries. It's great for really competing on the world market and at home, and creating larger profits, right? Whereas tariffs hurt the South because they are an export cash crop economy. It hurts them because now they have to pay higher manufacturing fees up in the North if they go to the North. They also have to pay reciprocal tariffs usually. It hurts their trade on the open market. So tariffs are bad for the South, good for the North. So these are issues around sectionalism. And probably the biggest signifier of sectionalism is the creation of the Republican Party, which is the first time in American history that we have a party that is solely for one section of the country. Up to this point, there were Northern Whigs and Southern Whigs, and Northern Democrats and Southern Democrats, and yes, they did have differences of opinion around certain issues, but the Republican Party, that was a Northern party. There were no Southern Republicans. There were none. Zero Southern Republicans. So really, when Lincoln gets elected president in 1860, who is the representative, the candidate for the Republican Party, that's what really starts to spark. That's like the camel that broke the straw that broke the camel's back for the South. They're like, the president doesn't represent anything that we stand for. He's made that very clear. And so they start to secede, leading to the Civil War. All right. That's it for that one. See you next time.